right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another installment in Inspiring Conversations. I'm your host for today. I'm Christine Wells. I'm the administrative assistant to Jen Polson Consulting, and I have with me here one of my favorite people. This is Amber Barraclough. Amber and I met, funny enough, we have never actually met in person. We are internet friends. We met on Instagram, and she's somebody that's been really instrumental for me in my personal journey to like health and nutrition and helping heal my kids and just a lot of other awesome things. But I'm going to let Amber tell us a little bit about herself and a little bit about what you do. So Amber, do you want to say hello and tell us about you?
Yes. Okay. So my name is Amber, like you said. I am, oh my goodness, there's so much I could say. I am 28, I think. I don't even remember how old I am. 29, something like that. I think I'm 28. Anyways, I have been married to my high school sweetheart for almost 9 years. We have 2 little kids that we absolutely love. And I have just been on a crazy journey the last 4.5 years of trying to figure out what's been going on with them and heal them and nourish their bodies well and love them well at the same time. So that's just kind of a little snapshot. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, and will you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and kind of, I think, why so many people follow you? Because Amber has quite a following on Instagram and her blog and everything. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what it is about you that you think draws people to you.
Okay, so I think, like, really what I do is, or where we kind of, this whole thing started is 4.5 years ago. Like, I was kind of, like, my husband got diagnosed with fatty liver disease, and I felt like it was right when our daughter was born, and it was really daunting for me to think about, like, knowing that a healthy lifestyle was really important for my husband and for me and for, like, the future of my kids, because we realized fatty liver disease can be hereditary. But I was, like, looking at this little baby that, like, needed me to also just love her, and I'm like, sounds really daunting. Like, I was struggling with thoughts of, like, I wish I had learned this 3 years ago so I could have gotten healthy before I had kids. Or, like, why don't I just wait and, like, when my kids aren't little tiny toddlers anymore, then, like, we'll try to get healthy maybe when they're, like, 10 and I have more, when they're not as, like, I don't have to do, like, every little diaper and every, like, feed them myself and all those little things. Like, I was like, surely it'll be easier if I wait. And just really feeling like I can't go back and change the way anything happened, and I can't wait any longer because then they're going to get set in their ways with food or just all these different things that I saw as possible problems. And so I was actually inspired by Diana Ballman from My Humble Kitchen. I was following her on Instagram, and she was posting all these pictures of cooking with her kids and gardening with her kids and homeschooling and doing all these things with her kids. And it was the first person, like, in my circle of people, I was, like, the only person doing what I was doing. And so I didn't have, like, mentors or people that I could walk that road with. And so it seemed impossible to overhaul my life, overhaul my diet, overhaul, like, the cleaning and all those things that we, like, the products we had in our home and things like that. It seemed really overwhelming. And so when I saw her doing this, I was like, oh my goodness, like, it's possible. Like, this isn't crazy. This isn't unattainable. And I just really felt inspired to share our journey with other people and let them know that, like, just because you have little tiny ones at home, like, it doesn't mean it's impossible. And, like, I'm also really motivated to talk about, not just about, like, inspire people to cook with their kids and, like, oh, like, let them chop with knives or whatever, but also that, like, parenting your kids in the kitchen is a really big deal, and the way that you talk to your kids and the way you communicate with your kids and just the heart behind the parenting, and not just, like, cooking with your kids isn't just an action. Like, there's a relationship being built in the process, and there's a lot that I think that when you asked me to do this, one thing I started to think about as I was just, like, processing over, like, what I wanted to talk about, one of the things I think I take for granted is, like, the people that God has put in my life in the last, like, 10 years, they have just poured radical, like wisdom into me about how to care for the hearts of kids. And I take it for granted. Like, I think I don't realize like what a huge opportunity I had. I used to be a preschool teacher, and I had some awesome women pouring into me and like being amazing examples to me. And I think I take for granted what I absorb from them. And the more that I talk and I open up about how I choose to parent or talk to my kids, or like whatever that looks like, in the way that I really invest in them, I forget not everyone has had those same mentors and those same people pouring into them and saying like, this is how you can communicate with a kid that shows mutual respect, or this is how you can do all these different things that I forget not everyone has those people in their lives like teaching them those things. And so it just realizing how much other moms and parents just seemed really encouraged by me sharing those tidbits that I'd learned from other people. It just has motivated me to keep going and just keep talking about like not just get your kids in to like chop mushrooms, but also like invest in their hearts and ask them questions and like practice patience and just all these different aspects of parenting, not just cooking.
Right, right. Well, and I'm going to show our viewers here some pictures of you. Okay. And yeah. So here's some pictures of Amber with her kids. Yeah, and these are pictures that you can see on her Instagram account. Over there, she's Real Food with Kids. And the thing that I love about watching you in this journey, I mean, you and I have been Instagram friends for, 2 years now? Something like that? Yeah, it's been a long time. But like I've watched you grow and start to really go from, here are the kinds of knives that I use with my kids, to here's the struggle we were having with today. This is how we took care of it. This is how I stopped and I listened to my kids and I treated them like little people. This is how I poured love into them today, instead of choosing to be self-centered and try and force them into my will. This is how I took this frustrating thing and turned it into something that built my relationship with my kids. So, I mean, I've seen that happen with you, and I've seen people respond to that. Like, I've seen so many people be like, oh, that's a great point. And like, you've got this following of several thousand people that obviously need somebody. I mean, you're younger than I am, but I'm learning from you. And I mean, I think we all get into, those of us who have kids get into that rut that, here's the checklist of things we need to get done today, and I just don't have time to stop. I've got to get all this done. I've got to just keep barreling forward. But what I love about you is that you're deliberately taking a step out of that mindset and showing people how to do that. And the way that you cook and the way that you eat, it's very similar to how we do. It's not like a quick thing. It takes a lot of time.
Yes.
But you're inspirational to people to show them, hey, look, just because it takes a lot of time doesn't mean it takes time away from your kids. Like, here's how you can involve your kids. So I love that about you. And I think that that's been really inspiring for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, tell us if there was like an event or a person that was especially influential in pushing you towards making your Instagram account, starting your blog, changing your mindset about life and food and parenting. Tell us kind of how you got there.
Okay, that's a big question.
I know.
I have a couple things I think that I could talk about. When I was a little girl, my grandma absolutely loved to cook, and she was very like gourmet. Like, she would just make these elaborate, wonderful things. She always would just gorgeous, delicious things. And at home, like, I lived in, like, my parents were both working. They were both busy. I think it was really, what I grew up with was really stereotypical for my generation of just lots of quick meals, lots of eating out, fast food, and things like that. And just not a lot of like from scratch home cooked meals. And so whenever we would go over to her house, it was such like an event for me and so exciting. And I would just sit there and watch her cook. And it was so like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? Like, you made tortillas from scratch? Like, who does that? Like, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, I remember her saying like, well, yeah, Amber, like anything you make it, like buy in the store, you can make it home. And I was like, what? Just really like blew my mind when I was a kid. And But the thing that really got to me about her was that no matter what crazy elaborate meal she was making, if I asked her if I could help, she always said yes, and she was never flustered. Like, and it just meant so much to me as a little kid. I will probably totally cry. I'm trying really hard not to, but like, just to have like someone that was patient with me and loved me and like saw the value in me being there with her and wasn't like, didn't view me as a burden. She didn't view me as a nuisance, or like, she never was like, I never asked her and she would like roll her eyes, or she would never like, like that stressed out noise moms make sometimes. Like, she never did that. Like, she would always just stand there for a second and like calmly look over her recipe and say, well, why, sure, like, why don't you do this? And she would just get me set up in this super sweet grandma voice and like just get me everything ready and set me up in my spot. And that was the other thing too. She let me have so much independence in the kitchen. Like, she would set me up and tell me how to do it and what to do it, and then she would just walk away and do her thing. And like, she trusted me. Like, just seeing that, like, the way that she valued me, like, as a person was just huge to me. Like, I wasn't like, like, I feel like you always are treated a little bit different by grandma than like parents or whatever, just because parents are busy and they have things to do, and there's a lot of weight on parents' shoulders. But to have someone do that for me, it really challenged my parenting as I've grown up. Just like, okay, like, how do I let my kids feel that same way and still be the parent? You know what I mean? And not that I can do it as gracefully and wonderfully as she did it, because I still am the parent with a lot more on my shoulders than my grandma had when she had me once a week or whatever. But I can still implement those things that she did and help my kids feel the way she made me feel, because it was really important to me. And then also, I kind of touched on this earlier, but when I worked at the preschool, like, I actually, my mom is not a kid person, and I just kind of grew up not being a kid person. Like, I was just kind of like, I would like personal space. I would like, don't get too close to me. Like, I don't really want to talk to you right now. Like, I didn't like kids. And I had, kind of a long story, but the only job I could get in high school was as a preschool teacher. And I had a friend that was working there, and she'd offered to give me a ride, and I was like fighting her for a while on it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this, but I really needed a car. And so I finally caved and worked at this preschool. As I started off as an assistant teacher in the afternoons, and hated it at first. Like, I just was like, like, there's 12 of them and they're all around me, and like, this is crazy, and like, there's boogers and just all these things, and like, but slowly, like, saw, because I was an only child, and like, I don't have a big family, so I didn't really see a lot of like children raising and happening in my life. And so this was the first time that I really saw multiple like older women around me like communicating with kids different than I'd ever heard, and like the way that they would set boundaries with kids, and the way that they would communicate expectations, and the way they would enforce things in ways that were respectful. Hang on just a second, okay? And sorry, I just woke up.
Okay.
Enforce things that enforce rules and things like that in a way that like, they would say it respectfully, and they would receive respect from the children. And not all the teachers were like amazing, but God put a couple in my life that were really significant at showing me how to communicate well with children and set boundaries. And it was huge. Like, that was another huge piece of the puzzle where like I realized that like, it's not, interacting with kids isn't as scary as I thought, and like just realizing what how I can create the relationship to be what I want it to be. Like, I don't have to let them control me, because that was honestly kind of what I thought was like, kids are around me and it's just crazy and they're going to control me and they're going to be bouncing off the walls and I can't do anything about it. And instead, like, I saw like I can set the tone for our relationship. I can steer it whatever direction I want to go by the way I speak to them in love, by the things that I show them that I value about them, and things like that. It was just really huge for me to just have, like, see that and watch that by example. And eventually I ended up becoming one of the, like, lead teachers in the morning and had control over my own room and just really thrived with 12 kids in my class every year. And it was so much fun. And I really valued that opportunity to learn, because it's one thing to read it in a book, and, like, I didn't actually get a degree. I took a couple classes, but I didn't finish it. And it's one thing to read it in a book and hear about it in a classroom. It's another thing to have women, like, firsthand showing you how to do it, because it's embedded into your brain, totally different than anything else. And so that was really valuable for me also. And then the other like event that has shaped where we are right now was my kids being diagnosed. They were never diagnosed, but we realized when Emery was about 2.5 that she was gluten and dairy intolerant, and it was causing severe problems that needed to be addressed immediately. And it just really, like, combining my grandma's love for cooking and her value on me and the mentorship that I received from the teachers, and then this like instant need that I had for my kids to like overhaul our diet and figure out all these things, and like it was a requirement for me to change our eating, not a luxury.
Yes.
Just all of those things kind of meshed together and became Real Food with Kids. And it started off with me honestly seeing other people. I think I saw Teeny Tiny Foodie first on Instagram doing her thing, and I was like, what in the world? Like, she's got so many followers. I'm like, that's just crazy. Like, I do this every day. Like, why don't I start an account? And it was just like inspiring for me to see someone else doing, like, teaching other moms how to cook and stuff. And so it started off as like, oh, I'll just show people how I cook with my kids. And then kind of like you're saying, like, you've been there from the beginning pretty much, like, just seeing that evolution of like, I think I just slowly started sharing like more personal things, and it just evolved into like that being what drew people in. And like those were like, I could comment a picture of Emery like chopping onions, and I would get questions like what kind of knives do you use? Or I could
You've never heard that question before. No one ever asks you what kind. People ask her what kind of knife she uses, like how many, like thousands of times now.
Like, I need to just like, by the way, Amazon.com, Curious Chef Knives. There's a 3-pack for $10.
She's going to put it out there right now, just so everyone's listening that can know.
Everyone, that's where they are. That's how much they are. They're amazing.
That needs to be like a banner on your website, like for real, like up at the top. Please don't ask me what kind of knives. It's the link, you know.
If we weren't limited on characters on Instagram, I would totally do it, because I'm like, how have they not like hired me yet? Like they've probably made thousands of dollars off of me. Like, I need to work out some sort of like partnership.
You need to do an affiliate link with them.
Yes,
you should. Sorry, sidetrack. Let's veer back.
Yes, so those are the knives. Like literally, it would even be like that question, and then someone else will ask it in the same post, and I'm like, anyways, so like a one post will be like like just like, hey, I cooked with my kids today, whatever. Or if I post something like heartfelt about like, this is what I learned with my kids, or this is how I was convicted that I wasn't loving them well, or this is how I like this awesome conversation that happened with Emery and I, or this is whatever, like I would end up with 30 plus comments and people just like interacting and like just really it just really seemed to be reaching people. And so I just realized, like, if this is what people are inspired by and encouraged by, and this is something that like I've had the like huge blessing of having other people pour this into me, like it would be silly of me to like keep that inside. You know what I mean? It would be silly for me to not like return that favor essentially and pour out everything that I was blessed with and share it with other people. Because it's I think that I'm realizing I think a lot of people are, including myself, are really insecure in parenting. It's a hard thing. Like, we've never done it before. Like, we thought it was going to be easier than it is. And, like, we had all these lofty ideas about what it would look like.
No one tells you everything. I mean, like, they couldn't, you know, but no one tells you about some of the really messy parts of parenting.
Yes, it's so true. And I think that while I absolutely have not nailed it and I screw up all the time, like, I think that it's just, I was very blessed with some awesome women. And so just really, I love helping people. I love pouring into people. I love the relationships that it's developed. Like, it'll turn into people emailing me, which will turn into me boxing people, which will turn into Christine's one of them, like, all the time. And like, it turns into relationships, which turn into like, with some people, it's turned into mentorship, where I'm able to like pour out other aspects of my testimony and share like somehow something will come up and they'll start talking to me about something else they're struggling with. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like God walked me through this too. Like, let me pour into you and talk to you about how he delivered me from this other thing too. And it's just led to some really awesome conversations on all sorts of like physical levels, but then also spiritual levels. And it's been really cool.
No, I think it's awesome because I really, I mean, we all need each other. I feel like we are not living isolated lives. I mean, and social media gets a really bad rap, I feel like, for being addictive, or like a really good scene for bullying to happen, or people setting themselves up as like perfect examples and all this stuff. And something that I really love about you is that you're very real and very honest. And I think some of the posts that have gotten a ton of attention on either your Instagram or your blog, or are ones where you've talked about struggles with Cooper. For those of you who haven't really seen anything from Amber, Cooper, her youngest son, or like her youngest child, had like a tongue and lip tie, right? And then several other like sensory processing disorder, and lots of things that make normal, quote unquote, 2-year-old age even more difficult than it already is. And like your honesty about that, and your openness, and your willingness to talk about all of this from the middle of the trenches, as opposed to like, well, he's 10 now and I can look back on this really rough time and here's how I got through it. But like, you're in the middle of it and you're telling people, today was terrible, but here's what we learned from it. Or here's something that could possibly help you if you're having a hard time in the middle of this like I am, and you're able to connect with people. And I see a lot of people responding to that, because you're not saying, my life is perfect, or I survived this thing. Like, you're right there, and people need somebody else who's right there with them to be able to connect and support each other. And I love that about you, and I think that a lot of people respond to that. So, yeah.
It's been really eye-opening to me. And like, it's funny, I was just telling someone this that commented a couple of days ago, is that I used to be really reserved and want to be that person that like, oh, had this awesome Instagram, made everything look really good, but the problem is I don't have any friends. You know what I mean? Like, and, like, as deep as you go is as deep as the other person goes. And I'm realizing that like it was a little bit awkward at first to like stick myself out there, and like I really struggle with like people's opinions of me. I really worry about like, oh my goodness, like what if this person judges what I say, or what if they think like
we all do.
I never know what people are going to say, but like it's crazy how like sticking myself out there, instead of it being this huge like attack that happened, it ended up just opening the doors for all sorts of moms to just say like, I get you, like I get you, and this is hard, and this is happening with me too. And like I've had a couple people tell me like they've never felt open to talk about it before with anybody, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's really humbling, and it's really like emotionally encouraging. I've cried like reading so many comments before. I'm like, oh my goodness, like it's just crazy how like opening up and sharing how hard parenting is like just lets other people feel like they can be honest about how hard it is for them too. Because I feel like some people do give off the air that like they have it all together, and it makes you feel like you need to respond with perfection.
Yes.
The idea of perfection.
Yes.
And so
I'm terrible at that.
Mutually encouraging for me.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we can't be perfect all the time. We are human beings, and we can often find connection in that humanness. So I think that's awesome. Okay, well, briefly tell us what kind of upcoming projects you have planned. Do you want to talk about your ebook? I mean, what do you want to tell us about that's coming up?
Okay, so I'm in like a weird limbo right now, because I thought the next 2 years of my life was going to look totally different. We started the GAPS diet, and so I thought that was going to be my focus. I had all these plans for things I wanted to do. I was really excited for myself to like get the education and the knowledge and hopefully the healing that comes from that. But we just kind of had an unexpected situation, and I had to suddenly just abruptly stop that. And it's okay, but I'm kind of in this weird like, wait, what? Like I thought, like I don't even know what to do with myself now. Okay, so I am starting an ebook, or I've been working on it for a while. It kind of got put on hold because we had just life happened, and it got put on hold. But yeah, I'm working on an ebook about like weaning your kids off of a processed diet and onto a nutrient-dense diet, because I'm realizing that for us, like we had the blessing of like figuring out that our kids needed a really healthy diet like right when Emery was born, and so she started off on the right foot, but not everyone has that story. A lot of people are coming at it with their kids being 5 years old and needing to overhaul their diet, or 10 years old, or 13, or whatever. And a lot of moms are just like, where do I even begin? What do I even start with? And I have a lot of ideas in mind for what I want to do, just to like equip parents, I should say, with helping their kids in the kitchen, but I think I wanted to start off with that first as like a good foundation of like, how do we even start with getting my kids craving healthy food? How do I change their cravings? How do I change their, all of that? And so, and then down the road, I'm hoping to do more like, kind of beyond that. I thought that'd be a good foundation to start with, and then kind of work on more things beyond that, just focusing more on the heart or focusing more on things like that, because I think that I come at, it's hard because Real Food with Kids, I feel like it comes from so many different angles. It's not just one thing, and so it's hard for me to know what to focus on next. But
well, it's very indicative of life, especially life with kids and real food. I mean, it kind of encompasses everything. And I can say, as someone who has been an early previewer of the ebook, it's going to be good, and I'm excited for that to come. Well, okay, so tell us how people can follow you on your journey, how they can get in contact with you, and I'll put all this contact information on a slide at the very end of this so that people can jot it down. But tell us how to keep in contact with you.
Okay, awesome. So I am definitely on Instagram. Real Food with Kids is my handle, and that is where all the action is. Every once in a while, I blog at realfoodwithkids.com. And you can also find me on Facebook as Real Food with Kids, but literally I just pretty much copy and paste everything from Instagram onto there because one of my grandma's friends doesn't have Instagram and she has Facebook. So it's all for her. So a lot of the conversation and the dialogue doesn't end up happening on Facebook. So I encourage people, if you've got Instagram, that's the best place to go. So
awesome. And people can also email you from your blog, from your website.
realfoodwithkids@gmail.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amber. I'm so glad that you were able to come and talk to us about what you do and about how you've been encouraging people. And I really encourage all of our viewers to go find her on Instagram and on her blog, and just kind of take a peek into the life that she's building and the way that she's parenting. It's truly inspirational. So thank you so much, Amber, for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
All right.
Glad to be here.